Hi everyone, my name is Nathan Lund. I'm working with Keep PA Safe to push for a petition that will support the governor's emergency order. And I'm sitting down today with Cumberland County Commissioner Foschi. Jean was elected last year on a platform of listening to her constituents. And before we get into all the rigmarole that's been going on with the commissioners in your area and the legislators, I just kind of wanted to give you the opportunity to use your background to speak to it. So thank you for joining me. And would you mind just talking about how when you were a restaurant manager, how you might have dealt with some of these issues that they currently face?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me today, Nathan. I really appreciate it. It's so nice to sit down and talk with you. Yes, I was a restaurant manager. It feels like eons ago now, in a very busy restaurant, and I can't even imagine how hard this will be upon reopening. There's lots of people that come in and out of a restaurant, and they come from all over the place, right? They're not just the people in your community, so you don't know where they've been, you don't know what they've been doing, you don't know what they're bringing, what invisible riders they're bringing with them. Mm-hmm. And your employees are like that too. There's a lot of you need a lot of employees to run a restaurant very well, and they're very close together. I think it's almost impossible to socially isolate, to socially distance while you're working in a restaurant. Some of that space is not huge, right? I worked at a chain restaurant, so it was a very large building, but still, I mean, there was nothing. It was nothing to have 10 waitresses in the waitress station all getting all of their materials together. So I think about that, about how hard it will be to distance people, how hard it will be to serve people if you have a mask on, right? How do you wait on someone when you're wearing a mask?
Right.
How can you communicate with them? How will you take cash, right? How will you handle that?
Right.
Cash is already pretty filthy.
Yeah.
I also think about supplies too. If we have a problem with supplies, you get your truck. What are you going to do if there isn't any toilet paper coming on the truck, right? How do you operate a restaurant if you don't have toilet paper in the bathrooms? So I think there's a lot there to be concerned about and to worry about as we move forward.
Right. I used to be a server, so when I see the struggles that a lot of people are going through who rely on the restaurant industry, not just for a good time to go out, but people who can't go to work right now, my heart really goes out to them, because it's not a cushioned existence when you're serving, or even when you're managing in a restaurant. Margins are thin, wages aren't high, so you're not going to have a ton of money to tide you over until you're able to get another job in this case. So
Right.
I'm glad that you could offer that kind of perspective on it, because I know that you're empathetic to the business issues, even while you are on the side of combating this pandemic. It's important to recognize that there really are two sides to this issue, but we can address them both at the same time. And I believe
Yes.
you also have experience as a paralegal in the corporate sector, and in a couple different ways. You got your certificate from Penn State, just like you got your BA, I believe, in
Yes.
political science from there as well. So I was wondering if you could just talk about the legal aspect for a minute, about this emergency order and just your understanding of it.
Okay, so I'm just gonna start with, I am not an attorney. When we were first approached, when people first started calling the commissioner's office or sending us emails and saying, hey, you can open up the county, you can defy the governor, I remember thinking, none of this strikes me as being legal. I'm not sure how we would ever have the authority to do that. And then, as the 3-commissioner team, we went ahead and had our solicitor really look into that for us. And no, it's not something that we have the authority to do. It's not a legal move. And then we started to think about, let's say that we did it and it's not legal. What happens then to the people who live in Cumberland County? If we say, oh, go ahead, defy the governor, open your business, what happens to their insurance policies? What happens to their business licenses? What happens to their liquor licenses? And so it really was a slope that would not have been good for us to go down. And certainly being responsible for someone losing their business license is not a good thing for a government official. I mean, you're not elected to put people in peril like that.
Right. And just for background for people who don't understand, Cumberland County was one of the counties. There were about a half a dozen that said that they just weren't going to respect the emergency order anymore, or they were considering it. And it was I think exclusively GOP people at first who were pushing this idea, but then there were actually some Democratic commissioners who ended up signing onto these resolutions as well. But your county is unique in the way that even the Republicans on the commission ended up rejecting this line of reasoning because they didn't have the authority. So I wonder if you could just speak to your understanding of what kind of pressure they were put under, because there was some reporting on it about it not originating from the commissioners themselves, and just kind of speak to how that came to be as you understand it.
Sure. So I'll start with this. When we did, so the county commissioners declared a state of emergency in the county. Oh, I can't remember what day that was in March. But as part of that, we put out a statement that says that the mitigation of COVID-19 was job number one in Cumberland County. So we've never moved from that position. We've never said, okay, now we're going to throw all of that away. What we've worked on is let's move forward in a smart, sustainable way. So no, our Republican delegation definitely reached out to the three of us and definitely said, you know, let's defy the governor's order. And then the two Republican commissioners that I work with, so to their credit, they just stayed very calm. They stayed very collected. They used their brains and said, we can't do this. This is not something that is even in our purvey to do if we wanted to. And by the way, this is not a good idea for the health of the people of Cumberland County. And certainly the three of us understand that we have to do something to help our businesses. And as you had said, Nathan, we can do both at the same time. We can make sure that people are healthy, and we can start rebuilding our economy. Other countries have done it, and we can do it too.
Yeah, I think that's right. And actually, as far as protecting the health, I was watching a video from you giving a stump speech before, and you were talking about air quality issues and how that was going to be kind of a cornerstone of your campaign. And I just remember watching it, and it hit so differently in the time of COVID, just because now there's this problem that isn't easy to mitigate. It's not like with germs, the way that some people talk about it, where it's just washing your hands is enough, because right now we're getting new information every day that's about, you know, how we circulate air. There's air conditioning implications. There's all this other stuff that it's just like, even a business that was very well intended and took all the necessary precautions, there are just some things that they can't do and that we don't have a good understanding on. So I wonder, for you, just kind of personally, for risk analysis, what do you think you'd like to see more of before PA starts to reopen? Like, as far as treatments, or, you know, do you want to wait all the way until we have a vaccine? Because that's kind of a criticism that we get a lot, that we want to wait on this thing forever. But I'm just curious what goes into your thought process on that.
So I'd like to see more testing.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to understand the efficacy of those tests. I'm starting to read things that say you can test negative in the morning and positive in the afternoon. I'd like to see an antibody test, and I certainly would like to have contact tracing well underway before we really go fully green. But we cannot hold off forever on this. There's just no way. It's the human toll is going to be huge if we hold off, and the human toll could be huge if we don't hold off. You know, this could go either way. So we have to find that balance. We have to keep people healthy, but certainly if you don't have a home to live in anymore, if you don't have food, if you can't take care of your children, those things are just as bad.
Right.
So
Right.
I'd also like to understand really, more about what this virus does to the body. Because every day it seems like there's a new symptom, rashes on your toes, there's that disorder that's happening in children now, that inflammatory disorder.
It's like Kawasaki adjacent, they're saying,
Yes.
which can have long-term health implications for people. And that's another thing that we don't really talk about too much, is that there's this kind of binary system that we're operating in, where someone either dies or they're recovered, but there's a huge gray area in there where people might recover to be able to continue living, but they're not recovered in a way that allows them to return to life as usual, where they might have long-term lung issues or other health impacts. And if people aren't able to work because of some of those, that's going to have long-term implications for the economy as well. So that's actually really illustrative in some of the things that you're looking for. But I guess that kind of begs the question, because the state is really directing this effort at this point, and I'm curious because I've seen mixed coverage on the commissioner's role in this. So I've seen some coverage that says that commissioners are briefed pretty regularly by the state government, and then I've seen others that say that they're completely operating in the dark. So what's your experience been with that?
We are not operating in the dark. The governor's office reaches out to us. We can reach out to the governor's office. We have a very nice line of communication with them. And that is a fantastic thing. I mean, I have reached out to the governor's office with issues that constituents are having about, hey, we're going to yellow. I don't know what this means. And I don't know what it means. And so, the governor's office has been very helpful with that and getting an answer back to us. And a relatively prompt answer. I think that, having an answer within 12 hours is really decent. And then constituents are, of course, very pleased that there's actually someone out there that's willing to work with them and to answer questions, because it is hard getting a hold of the state to answer particular questions.
Right, and you think that you kind of operate as a nice proxy for people who maybe have a lot of the same questions, so you can kind of bundle those,
yes.
Go to the governor's office, get some guidance, and bring those back to your constituents. So do you think that that's pretty equal across the board then, from your understanding, like you and your colleagues? I know that there have been accusations that, the governor is just playing favorites with some people as well. From your understanding, do your Republican colleagues have just as much access to the governor and his office as you do?
Yeah, that's my understanding. I mean, certainly I'm not the only one. I'm not the only person on the phone call with the governor's office.
Right.
And our chairman is a Republican, and regularly they call him and they say, okay, this is what we want to do. Are you okay with it? So I don't see that in our office. I do not see anyone at the governor's office playing favorites.
Awesome. That's really good to hear, because honestly, reading some of the quotes, not so much the coverage, because news is usually very responsible in just kind of reporting what people say, but if they can't back something up, they won't. So I've seen some people make some questionable statements about their interactions with the governor's office, and I just wanted to get perspective from a commissioner who's actually had firsthand experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything else on COVID-19 specifically and the response to it that you want to address?
Well, one of the things you said, what would you like to see? And so here's one of the things I would really like to see, because people are out and about moving around in Cumberland County. And a lot of people don't have a mask. And you need a mask. You still need a mask. And so I would ask that people please wear a mask. And if they don't have one, you can get a hold of me. And I'm going to give you my email address. It's jfoschi. So it's F as in Frank, OSCHI @ccpa.net. And if you don't have one, I can help you to get one. They're very hard to go by right now, but certainly people are making them. So I could help you to get one. So I'm concerned that maybe the mask, not having a mask, you're not wearing one because you don't have one. Mm-hmm. So if that is the issue, I think that we can get that fixed. And if you do have one and you're not wearing it, well, how about if you put it on so that we can cruise, we can get to green. If we have a spike in cases, it will delay everything. And I don't think anyone wants that. I don't want it.
Yeah, I know. I personally don't. I'm really excited to get back to whatever normal is going to look like after this. Now, apart from COVID-19, there are some other ancillary issues that we have. So I'm just curious if there's anything else that you would like to address, just things that you think people need to have their attention on, or something that you'd just like to boost in general.
Okay, so let's not forget about the census. Let's not forget that we all need to be counted. That's how we get our federal dollars, and we need it to deliver our human services. So if you haven't done your census, please go and do it. And it will be very hard now for census workers to knock on doors and talk to people. People don't want you at the door, and I have a feeling there aren't a lot of people that are really interested in doing that job.
Mhm.
So that's something that I think is very important that we have to keep our eyes on right now.
Right, and I think that's important across PA. There is a huge swath of just. I was looking at the map of the participation rates. There are a bunch of counties that don't even have 50% participation right now. What's your rate up to in Cumberland County?
It's about 70. It's a little over than 70%, which is fantastic.
That's good, but you know, we want to get it as close to 100 as possible,
Yes.
because the more people that we count, the better representation that we have when it comes to everything from Congress to the funds that we get, like you said. That's great. So just to kind of close out, thank you for sitting down with me and talking about this. Your perspective has really lent a lot of clarity to me.
Okay. Well, thank you, Nathan. I appreciate it that you'd even be interested in talking with me. It's so nice. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And for the people who you said don't have mass, and they can reach out to you if they'd like some access to it in Cumberland County. I'll put your email in the post about this, so then that way they can reach out to you more easily.
Yes.
All right. So thanks again, and we should talk again sometime. It's been a while. It's been a while.
Has, yeah.
It's weird when you hear kind of the line that, you know, some people just really want to keep the economy closed, because if those people exist, I have not met them. I haven't met
No,
them.
I don't know where they are. People want to be cautious. They want to be safe.
Mhm.
But I haven't heard anyone tell me, like, don't open anything.